Acer's Helios 300 was one of the best gaming laptops available last year, but the 10th gen 2020 refresh is unfortunately a few steps backwards. My configuration does have some decent hardware inside, but unlike Acer's lower end Nitro 5 series, there's no Ryzen available here. Maybe next generation? There's a turbo button above the keyboard which boosts fan speed and overclocks the graphics, allowing you to quickly improve performance in games with the push of a button. And with this level of hardware, all games run great with good settings. Undervolting was also disabled with the 10th gen model. Last year there was a nice undervolt applied out of the box, which is good for people that don't want to tune it or just don't know any better. This meant they would pretty much get better temperatures and performance by default. Now this isn't unique to Acer, as most Intel 10th gen laptops have disabled undervolting, presumably to mitigate the Plundervolt security vulnerability. It still would have been great to have it as an option in the advanced BIOS like MSI does with their laptops though, but unfortunately in the latest BIOS it's just completely locked. Outside of gaming, well, processor performance in Cinebench R20 isn't great, especially when compared to those Ryzen options that I've been testing lately. I'm not just taking a jab at Intel though, as the 10th gen Helios 300 is only just slightly better than the 9th gen model, and again that's because the 9th gen got the advantage of undervolting. So in terms of raw CPU performance, the 10750H isn't really that much better. It seems that undervolting might have been what was keeping the Helios cool too, as in my testing this one was thermal throttling on the CPU, something that was never happening on the old model. However, to be fair, I do have more powerful RTX 2070 Max-Q graphics here, whereas my last gen model had 1660 Ti, so it's not directly comparable. My unit has a fair amount of backlight bleed, but this will vary between laptops. Bleed aside though, the screen in the Helios 300 is quite good. In terms of response time, it's tied for first place out of all 144Hz panels I've tested so far with the Lenovo Legion 5. And it's also got decent brightness and decent color gamut. Unfortunately though, there's no FreeSync here like we get in those AMD options like the Legion. Inside we've got the 58Wh battery down the front and a 2.5-inch drive bay on the left. There are two M.2 storage slots on either side just above, a Wi-Fi 6 card on the left, and two memory slots in the middle. My review unit actually came with just one stick of memory in single channel, so hopefully this isn't a popular configuration that's sold. The ones that I saw on Amazon were listed with dual channel, and I've done all of my testing on this machine in dual channel for best results. Battery life was okay but not amazing. Last year's Helios did last for almost 2 hours longer, but again that's probably down to the GPU difference. This one just has a bit more powerful hardware. Build quality and design is the same as last year's models, so it's fine. Metal lid and interior with a matte black finish. There's some flex if you go looking for it, but the lid is sturdier than say the plastic Legion 5 or Omen 15. The keyboard has 4 zones of RGB backlighting, and although it looks the same as last year's, I had some serious issues with it which would result in me returning this machine if I had bought it. When typing, many of the keystrokes weren't picked up unless I pressed extra hard. I also noticed this when gaming too, like when walking through a game and pressing WASD, if I just slightly reduced the pressure on the key, even if it was fully pressed down, my character would just stop walking. It was seriously annoying and it took me a while to work out what was going on. I don't know, maybe you'll get used to just pushing down harder and it won't be an issue, but this just wasn't a problem that I had with last year's model, and as far as I can tell, the keyboard does look the same. The precision touchpad at least was fine, no problems there. The speakers are underneath down the front, and they sound above average for a gaming laptop, and there was a little bass present. By default, it plays this obnoxious sound when you power it on. Fortunately, this can be disabled through the BIOS or the Predator Synth software in Windows. I/O is decent. The left has a gigabit Ethernet port, 2 USB 3 Type A ports, and a 3.5mm audio combo jack. The right has a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port, a third USB 3 Type A port, as well as HDMI and mini DisplayPort outputs. The Type C port does not have Thunderbolt or display output, and you can't use it to charge the machine. The power input was moved to the back in this 2020 model, which is preferable as last year the head of the power connector covered the side air exhaust a little. Speaking of changes, the lid is a bit cleaner now too without the Predator text, which no offense, just felt a little too edgy for me. The 720p camera and microphones are up the top, and they look and sound pretty average. Nothing special, but it gets the job done. Now last year the Helios 300 with i7 and GTX 1660 Ti was around $1,200 US, though it did go on sale on Black Friday for $930 US, so probably worth keeping an eye out for some sales in the upcoming days. Anyway, this one with 10th gen i7 and RTX 2060 is still $1,200, so you are getting a bit more performance compared to what was available last year. You can check current pricing of this machine with the links down in the description. So while we're getting better specs for the same price as last year, the fact is the competition has also stepped up the game, especially with those laptops that are using Ryzen's new 4000 series processors. And without the out-of-the-box undervolt, or even giving the user the option to undervolt themselves, the advantage that it had over the competition before is gone. Personally, I'd probably just get the Lenovo Legion 5 and call it a day. It's $200 less for the 1660 Ti model, and you get that 8-core Ryzen processor. The screen's got the exact same response time, it's also got FreeSync, battery life was better, and I didn't have those annoying keyboard issues that were present here. You can check out my review of the Lenovo Legion 5 over here. Otherwise, if you want to see how well the Helios 300 actually performs in games, then check out my other one over here. I've tested 20 different titles at all setting levels, so I'll see you over in one of those videos. And if you're new to the channel, then don't forget to subscribe for future laptop reviews like this one.